What if your mornings were the reason you're stuck in mediocrity? Nikola Tesla didn't just wake up. He entered a mental state most people never reach in their entire lives. This video breaks down the forgotten rituals and strange habits Tesla used every morning to unlock genius-level thinking, and how you can adapt them to sharpen your focus, think with impossible clarity, and create ideas that feel like they were downloaded from another dimension. Are you tired of waking up already overwhelmed? Of feeling like you're reacting to life instead of designing it? What you'll learn in the next few minutes could help you reclaim your mornings, silence the noise of the world, and activate the part of your mind that actually builds your future. This isn't just about Tesla. It's about you, your mind, and the unrealized power you're leaving on the table every single day. Stick around, because by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to stop letting the world shape your thoughts and start entering your own genius state on command. Most people wake up and jump straight into battle, emails, news, notifications. They've been taught that a productive morning means getting ahead on tasks. But here's the quiet truth. Most of these routines are just noise dressed up as discipline. Productivity has become a performance, not a portal. And in this performance, you burn energy before you even touch your real power. Tesla understood this, and he opted out completely. You've probably tried a few morning routines already. Maybe even followed one from a best-selling book or some guru online. Woke up at 5 a.m., made your bed with military precision, maybe even took a cold shower. And yet, nothing changed. The clarity didn't come. The genius didn't awaken. Because real transformation doesn't begin with external rituals, it begins with internal alignment. Tesla never cared about checking boxes. His mornings weren't about efficiency, they were about frequency. He wasn't trying to get more done, he was tuning himself like an instrument. While the world praises hustle and grind, Tesla was doing something far stranger. He was building silence around his thoughts so they could grow without interruption. That's not a habit, that's a strategy of genius. See, most people confuse motion with meaning. They think because they're moving, they're progressing. But real creators, the ones who shape the future, know that some of the most important work happens before a single thing is done. Tesla didn't just wake up and go. He prepared his mind like a sculptor sharpens his chisel before touching the stone. The real morning ritual isn't about the what, it's about the who you're becoming. Let's get real for a second. If you wake up already feeling behind, if your mornings feel like a race you never signed up for, there's a reason. You're playing a game that isn't yours. You're reacting, not designing. And if you're always in reaction mode, there's no space for original thought, only recycled thinking. Tesla refused to start his day on someone else's timeline. Maybe it's time you did too. So what did Tesla do instead of the usual morning hustle? What was his secret that allowed him to think in dimensions most people can't even perceive? That's where it gets interesting. Because the next step in his process wasn't doing more, it was doing nothing. But not the lazy kind of nothing. The kind that sharpens the mind like a blade in the dark. Tesla didn't wake up to the sound of motivational podcasts or the glow of a screen. He woke up to nothing. Silence. Stillness. Emptiness. While most people scramble for stimulation the moment their eyes open, Tesla moved in the opposite direction. And here's what they don't tell you. Silence isn't passive. It's active. It forces the brain to process what it usually ignores. You see, silence activates a specific part of your brain, the default mode network. This is where introspection, imagination, and big-picture thinking live. It's the backstage of genius, quietly stitching together ideas while the world distracts itself with noise. Studies have shown that creativity increases when the DMN is allowed to roam freely. But here's the catch. It only lights up when you're not busy doing. Are you ever truly not doing? Imagine your mind like a snow globe. Every notification, every voice, every sound, it shakes the snow. But when you sit in silence, the particles settle. And for the first time, you can actually see what's beneath. That's what Tesla did. He wasn't escaping the world. He was accessing a part of himself that only reveals itself when the world is muted. That's not weird. That's strategic. But let me ask you this. When was the last time you heard nothing? Not just quiet, but total absence. No phone buzzing, no music, no mental clutter. Could you even handle that kind of space? Most people can't. Because silence forces confrontation. With your thoughts. With your fears. With yourself. And that's exactly why it's so powerful. Tesla used that silence as fuel. Not for peace, for insight. While others used noise to avoid their inner chaos, he dove into it. And on the other side, He emerged with answers no one else could find. You don't need to become a monk to do this. You just need to start small. 5 minutes of no input. 10 minutes of being alone with your breath. Watch what starts to surface. And if silence unlocks depth, what did Tesla do with that clarity? How did he channel it into something tangible, something real? That's where things start to get wild. Because Tesla didn't just sit with his thoughts, he turned them into living blueprints. Not with paper, not with tools, but with the most advanced instrument ever created, the human mind. Tesla didn't sketch. He saw. Machines, mechanisms, entire systems, all built, tested, and refined in his mind before they ever touched reality. This wasn't daydreaming. It was wargaming. Mental architecture. While others wasted months in prototypes, Tesla's lab was inside his skull. And what if your imagination is not a playground, but a weapon you're neglecting? Visualization is often sold today as a manifestation trick. Picture a Ferrari, and it magically appears. But Tesla used imagery as a simulation engine. He didn't just visualize results, he visualized resistance, friction, failure, feedback. His mental models weren't fantasies, they were living experiments. Do you think your mind is detailed enough to predict consequences before they happen? Modern neuroscience backs him up. Studies on athletes, surgeons, even chess masters show that detailed mental rehearsal activates the same neural circuits as physical action. In other words, thinking it properly is almost the same as doing it. But most people imagine vaguely. They don't construct, they fantasize. Tesla wasn't escaping reality. He was pre-building it. What separates imagination from delusion is structure. Tesla's visions passed through mental stress tests. He would let an idea evolve for days, watching it fail, bend, adapt, all without lifting a finger. And when he finally acted, it wasn't guessing. It was executing a blueprint forged in silence. Can you imagine trusting your mind that deeply? Now pause. How do you use your inner world? Is it a landfill of intrusive thoughts, or a forge of possibility? Most people's imagination has been hijacked by anxiety, by screens, by distraction. But Tesla proves this. The sharper your inner construction, the less noise you need from the outside. Inner clarity precedes outer precision. Always. So here's the question that should haunt you. What would happen if you trained your mind like Tesla trained his? If you replaced endless consumption with focused mental simulation? You already have the tool. You were born with it. But tools don't build empires, users do. And Tesla was the ultimate user of the unseen. Most people treat sleep as recovery. Tesla treated it like chemistry, measured, purposeful, sometimes dangerous. He famously claimed to sleep only 2 hours a night. But he didn't just lose sleep, he manipulated it. Controlled rest. Micronaps. Intervals of calculated unconsciousness. Was it madness? Or was it a door to mental superstates we've been warned never to open? The modern world worships 8-hour sleep. But what if that rhythm is only one of many? Polyphasic sleep, sleeping in segments, has been studied in artists, warriors, and polymaths throughout history. Tesla wasn't alone. Da Vinci, Napoleon, Buckminster Fuller. They all danced with exhaustion, but never collapsed. Why do some people thrive on less while others disintegrate without it? There's a theory. Deep insight often emerges from the edges of consciousness. Tesla's naps weren't for rest, they were for revelation. The boundary between wakefulness and sleep is called the hypnagogic state, where surreal imagery, strange connections, and spontaneous genius emerge. Edison used it. Dolly used it. Are you using it? Or sleeping through your best ideas? Let's be honest, most people don't sleep poorly because they're inventing the future. They sleep poorly because their minds are chaotic. Scrolling until 2 a.m., overstimulated, overfed, and anxious. Tesla's relationship with sleep wasn't lazy or toxic, it was engineered. Every hour he lost was traded for intensity. Can you say the same? Or are your sleep habits just passive self-destruction? There's a painful truth here. Comfort is killing clarity. Uninterrupted sleep is important, yes. But so is using fatigue. Tesla knew how to flirt with the line between clarity and collapse. He weaponized exhaustion. Not recklessly, but deliberately. When was the last time you controlled your state, instead of being controlled by it? The next time you feel tired, don't just collapse. Observe it. What thoughts surface when the conscious mind loosens its grip? What flashes appear when logic fades? Maybe you're not sleep deprived, maybe you're idea deprived. And maybe, like Tesla, your greatest insight won't come when you're well rested, but when you're barely awake and absolutely focused. Repetition is often misunderstood. It's mocked as mindless, robotic, dull. But Tesla knew something most people miss. Repetition, when done consciously, isn't the death of creativity, it's the sharpening of it. He didn't revisit ideas because he lacked inspiration. He revisited because every layer peeled back another insight. Depth is rarely loud. It's recursive, obsessive, and terrifyingly effective. You think you've moved on from an idea just because it stopped feeling exciting? Tesla would have laughed at that. Excitement isn't the measure of value, depth is. And depth comes through return. Each morning, he would mentally circle the same concepts again and again until the cracks revealed patterns, and the patterns revealed genius. Are you refining your ideas, or just abandoning them too early? Psychology calls this elaborative rehearsal, the act of reinforcing memory and understanding through variation. Instead of mindless repetition, it's mindful reconstruction. Tesla didn't just think the same thoughts. He re-examined them with new angles, new doubts, new obsessions. Like a sculptor recarving the same marble, not because it's imperfect, but because it's not yet alive. Repetition isn't sexy. It doesn't look brilliant. It's quiet, frustrating, uncertain, but it creates neural grooves that no single moment of inspiration ever could. Tesla's mind wasn't built by breakthroughs. It was forged through loops, cognitive loops, that deepened his understanding beyond the reach of normal thinkers. How deep have you gone into your ideas, really? There's a dangerous lie in modern culture, that new is always better. But novelty without depth is empty. Tesla knew this. He wasn't hunting dopamine. He was hunting structure, clarity, inevitability. Repetition made his ideas unshakable. Most people try something once, fail, and flee. But what if mastery lives on the other side of boredom? Could your restlessness be costing you genius? Here's a challenge. Take one idea you believe in and revisit it for 30 mornings straight. No shortcuts. No productivity hacks. Just honest mental wrestling. See what emerges after the 10th day, the 20th, the 30th. Tesla didn't fear mental monotony. He weaponized it. And maybe, just maybe, the thing you've been overlooking isn't your intelligence, it's your endurance. Tesla didn't pace for leisure, he paced for lightning. While others scribbled at desks, he walked miles, letting thoughts crackle in motion. The city didn't distract him, it triggered him. Every step fed his cognition. This wasn't idleness. This was embodied cognition, the nervous system syncing with the rhythm of the body, unlocking thoughts that static sitting could never birth. Ever felt stuck while sitting, then solve the problem during a walk? That's not coincidence, it's neurology. The act of walking activates the brain's prefrontal cortex, enhances hemispheric communication, and even stimulates default mode network activity, the same network responsible for abstract thinking and insight. Tesla's walking circuit wasn't poetic, it was cognitive engineering. But it's more than biology, it's pattern recognition in motion. Tesla used the body to shake the mind loose. When thoughts grew stale, he'd walk, not to escape, but to rewire. Movement creates momentum, psychological and conceptual. Stillness has its place. But if you're overthinking, maybe your mind isn't stuck, maybe your legs are. There's also a symbolic layer. By walking, Tesla removed himself from the machine world he was helping to build. He reconnected with chaos, flow, randomness, side streets, sounds, the mundane noise of reality. That noise, it's not noise at all, it's unfiltered input. And to the right mind, it becomes metaphor, metaphor becomes mechanism, and mechanism becomes invention. How often do you give your thoughts space to breathe? Not space on a calendar, but literal physical space? Most people crowd their minds, and then wonder why nothing flows. You cannot force insight in confinement. Tesla's circuit taught one thing clearly: thinking is a full-body experience. If you separate your body from your ideas, you amputate your own intelligence. Here's the truth. Your next breakthrough might not come at your desk. It might come during a walk you didn't schedule, a rhythm you didn't force. Tesla didn't walk to burn calories, he walked to ignite thought. So next time you're stuck, don't try harder. Move smarter. Insight isn't always found by looking deeper. Sometimes it's found by walking away, just far enough to see the whole picture. Tesla didn't fast to be trendy. He fasted to think. While most people wake up hungry for stimulation, food, news, validation, Tesla starved distractions. He understood something modern neuroscience now confirms: digestion competes with cognition. The more your body works to break down matter, the less energy remains for abstract thought. It's not just a diet, it's a strategy of clarity. The morning is a fragile psychological state. Your dopamine is reset. Your cortisol is rising. Your mind is most plastic. And what do most people do with that window? They destroy it, with heavy meals, scattered thoughts, and dopamine floods. Tesla protected that window like a sacred temple. His light eating was not about restraint. It was about amplification. Light food, heavy thought. That's the paradox. Tesla knew that high performance wasn't fueled by volume, but by velocity of processing. In a fasted or semi-fasted state, the brain increases production of norepinephrine, a neurochemical linked to alertness, focus, and memory consolidation. While others filled their bodies, Tesla fueled his intellect. He didn't consume, he channeled. Ask yourself this: are your habits feeding your mind or numbing it? There's a reason monks fast before meditating. Why ancient philosophers walked for hours before their first bite. Hunger, controlled hunger, sharpens. Not just physically, but intellectually. Tesla didn't fear emptiness. He used it. The void becomes a tool if you stop trying to fill it. And let's go deeper. Tesla's restraint wasn't only physical. It was philosophical. He believed the mind should be given space to initiate thought, not constantly react to it. The modern world has inverted that. We eat reactively, think reactively, live reactively. Tesla turned this inside out. By keeping his body light, he made his mind dense. Heavy with originality. Heavy with structure. So next time you reach for a heavy breakfast, ask yourself, are you fueling the body to run from thought, or are you preparing the mind to face it head-on? Tesla didn't need fuel to function. He needed stillness to access the deeper layers of genius. And sometimes, the heaviest ideas come when the body is empty, but the mind is fully alive. Are you willing to sit with that kind of hunger? Tesla's morning ritual was one of ruthless isolation. While the world clamored for attention, Tesla resisted it. He knew that the first few hours of the day were sacred, a time to solidify his mental state before it was corrupted by external noise. In a time where notifications and distractions rule our lives, can we really say that we guard our mornings like Tesla did? Or do we surrender them to the world the moment we open our eyes? Consider this. Every piece of information you consume in the morning is a psychological transaction. When you check your phone, you're giving away your mental sovereignty. Tesla understood this and strategically withheld himself from the noise of the world. He avoided people. He avoided news. Why? Because he knew that your mind's most fertile ground is a blank canvas, and every outside influence is a brushstroke you didn't choose. This isn't just about avoiding distractions, it's about protecting your mental currency. In today's hyper-connected world, we rarely give ourselves a moment to think without interruption. Every notification is a tax on your focus. Tesla's genius wasn't just his knowledge, it was his ability to enter a state of deep, uninterrupted thought, untainted by the external world's demands. But do we really need to know everything happening in the world right away? Is your ability to create ideas greater than your ability to consume them? The irony is that information overload is the new form of slavery. We are conditioned to believe we must be informed to stay relevant, to survive. Yet, as Tesla demonstrated, relevance comes not from knowing everything, but from knowing yourself. True creativity, true insight, is cultivated in isolation. When was the last time you truly experienced silence? The kind of silence where you could hear your own thoughts without someone else's voice intruding? Tesla's avoidance of external input wasn't just about mental space, it was a psychological strategy. It's easy to think we are too busy for deep thinking. Yet, the truth is that we're addicted to doing. Checking our phones, engaging with others, filling every gap with external stimuli. What would happen if you started your day like Tesla, with no input from the outside world? How much more would you hear the voice of your own creativity? The question isn't whether Tesla's approach worked. It's whether you're willing to make that commitment to your own mental space. Can you really afford to give up your mornings to the world's demands? Or are you ready to reclaim that precious time for yourself, for the purpose of creating, not consuming? Tesla didn't just avoid people, he avoided chaos. Will you? Nikola Tesla's view on creativity was radical. He didn't believe in chasing ideas. He believed that ideas weren't something to be created from scratch, but something to be received, as if knowledge was floating around, waiting for the right mind to tune into it. In a world obsessed with hustle, do you ever wonder if you've been forcing your creativity instead of simply listening to it? Is genius something you can summon, or does it reveal itself when you stop trying so hard to control it? Consider the possibility that the mind, in its most fertile state, isn't an active producer but a receiver. Tesla described his mental process almost like a medium receiving messages. Could it be that our obsession with creating is actually hindering us? What if the best ideas are the ones we allow to emerge, not the ones we push out through sheer effort? Are you truly connected to your source of creativity, or are you trapped in a cycle of self-doubt and forced innovation? In the age of constant information overload, it's easy to feel like we need to chase every piece of knowledge, every trend, every new technique. But Tesla's process defied that. He wasn't driven by trends or external expectations. His inventions came to him, often in flashes of insight, as though the ideas already existed and he was merely tuning into them. How much of what you create comes from your own mind, and how much of it is simply an echo of someone else's influence? Tesla's almost spiritual approach raises a provocative question. What if your most powerful ideas are waiting for you, not in the noise you chase, but in the silence you allow? Are you willing to step away from the flood of external input and create space for those moments of spontaneous insight? In a world where everyone is trying to be the next big thing, are you willing to simply listen to what the universe has to offer, or do you insist on doing it all yourself? Tesla didn't see himself as a creator in the traditional sense. He was a channel, a vessel through which ideas flowed. But here's the catch. To channel, you must first be still. You must be open. Most of us are so preoccupied with producing that we don't leave any room for the spontaneous insights that could change everything. When was the last time you allowed yourself to receive an idea rather than chase it relentlessly? And more importantly, how often do you trust that the idea is already inside you, waiting for the right moment to emerge? The real question, then, is whether you are ready to stop chasing and start channeling. If Tesla believed that knowledge was received rather than created, then how would your approach to ideas change? Would you become less anxious about forcing your next breakthrough and more patient in letting it find you? Genius, in Tesla's eyes, wasn't about constant effort. It was about quiet receptivity. So, can you let go of your need for control and trust that, just like Tesla, you too can tune into the source? By now, you've explored the eccentricities and brilliance of Tesla's morning routine. But let's pause for a moment and ask, how much of his ritual can truly be replicated? Tesla wasn't just following a formula for success, he was embodying a mindset. So, when we talk about designing your own genius state, the question isn't about mimicking Tesla's every move. It's about uncovering your own path to mental alignment. Can you create your own ritual that opens the door to creativity without getting lost in the shadows of someone else's routine? What if the key to your own genius lies in the small, seemingly insignificant decisions you make every morning? Tesla didn't rely on caffeine or social media to kickstart his mind. He used silence, mental priming, and focused intention. But that doesn't mean you have to follow his exact blueprint. What can you incorporate into your mornings that speaks directly to you? A different form of stillness? A personal ritual of connection to your work? The genius is in the self-discovery, not the imitation. The danger of copying is that it often leads to mechanical routines, void of authenticity. Tesla's genius wasn't in the consistency of his habits, but in the purposefulness behind them. This is where most morning routines fail. They're driven by a desire for productivity, not by a deep connection to the work. So, what's missing from your routine? Are you prioritizing mindless productivity over authentic engagement with your inner self? When was the last time you allowed your mind to simply be, without the pressure to perform? The challenge, then, isn't to copy Tesla's practices, but to dissect what made his routine so powerful: the mental alignment. This isn't about simply following a set of rules. It's about setting aside time every day for your mind to sharpen itself, to process, to reflect, and to create. Do you carve out that space in your life, or is your mind just another cog in the wheel of daily tasks and distractions? What happens when you break free from the chaos and dedicate time to the internal work? Consider how you define success. Is it in the endless hustle, the race to be the best, or is it in the quiet moments of clarity when the next big idea presents itself effortlessly? Your own genius state is waiting, but it requires you to look inward, to seek stillness, to receive ideas instead of chasing them. What would happen if you gave yourself permission to stop trying to control the flow of creativity? Could you become the channel for brilliance, like Tesla? Or would your constant striving block the very insights you seek? As we wrap up, ask yourself, what if your mornings could be a sacred time for mental alignment, not a mechanical ritual to force productivity? Tesla's genius wasn't in his routine, it was in his mindset. And this is something you can cultivate for yourself. Embrace the art of receiving, the power of silence, and the freedom to think without pressure. Only then will you truly unlock the genius that lies within. If you're ready to transform your mornings, redefine your approach to productivity, and unlock your own genius, it starts today. Don't just follow routines, create a mindset. Dive deeper into the art of mental priming, silence, and receiving creative ideas that change everything. Subscribe now, and let's explore how you can design your own path to brilliance, not through imitation, but through self-discovery. Embrace the power of stillness and start building the mental foundation for your greatest success. The question is, are you ready to create your own genius state? Hit that subscribe button, and let's begin this journey together.